Morning, everyone. We'll call our recess budget meeting back to order this morning. And I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to our county manager to guide us through what we need to do today.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, Commissioners, I want to let you know about a request that we've received from Milton. This is a recent request, so I've not had the opportunity to go through and vet it 100%. I don't know a lot about the project. I've laid an email at each one of your spots outlining their request. I'm not asking that this be included in the budget, but I did want to make you aware of it. And we'll continue to explore their request as the year moves on. But I did want to make you aware of the request. The action items that you'll have for you this morning are the budget ordinance and the grant project ordinance for Caswell County coronavirus, state and local fiscal recovery funds. So as you know, the coronavirus funds that we have been calling the American Recovery Plan, the school of government has issued some guidance on that, and they have said that is best, those funds are best spent out of a project ordinance. So we've left those out of the budget ordinance and created a project ordinance with the funding in the project ordinance. So you have your fiscal year 2021, 2022 budget ordinance in front of you, and you have the grant project ordinance. So we would ask for approval of both of those ordinances. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have about either one of the ordinances.
Is that the grant project, is that the $2 million?
That's correct.
The other one is the budget.
That's correct.
And we've got everything included in the budget, what we talked about the other day.
Yes, sir. If it pleases the board, I'll just go over some general information. The total general fund revenues, $23,230,982, and the expenditures to match. So the budget is balanced. Solid waste fee is $113 based on 9,700 households. Our collection rate's 98.43%. There is no tax increase associated with this budget. Ad valorem tax collections are $11,025,000. The Caswell Special Fire Tax District is projected to receive $39,267. The Fire Service District, the countywide Fire Service District, both the Caswell and the Fire Service District rates remain the same, but the Fire Service District is expected to yield $478,794, and the Solid Waste Management Fund is expected to yield $1,078,924. The total general fund budget, as I said before, $23,230,982. The total other funds are $11,493,489. Total enterprise funds is $2,092,881 for a total budget amount of $36,817,352. We did not change any of the budget officer's duties or authorizations from last year in the current budget ordinance.
Are we taking any out of fund balance this year?
We're taking $1,967,180. And as the board may recall, you appropriated $1,795,000 $5,000 last year. None of that money was spent, was returned to the general fund.
That's what I was thinking. We didn't spend none of it last year.
That's correct. And that's usually the trend that we see every year, is there'll be fund balance appropriation. Now, as I say every year, we're not gonna promise that none of it's gonna be spent. But, for the last many years, we've been able to return the fund balance appropriation, or most of it, to the general fund.
Well, I think, and Ms. Finance Officer, you correct me if I'm wrong, I think, we got a good healthy fund balance, so did have 27%, it should be right around that.
Yes, sir.
Is that right?
That's correct.
We're looking at
Good fund balance.
a 27% fund balance percentage. And if the $1,967,180 were to be expended, we would be looking at about a 23% fund balance percentage. The local government commission requires us to maintain an 8% fund balance percentage.
And just on that as well, many times that we have to spend money up front that we're gonna get back from the state.
That's correct.
These programs such as DSS, we will get money that will be spent, come from the state for that fund, and so that will negate some of that money.
I remember them days of 8% when I first came on this board. I said, good Lord, it was around 8%, they was getting those letters from the local government.
Yeah, if you get
It
down,
up over the years.
if you get down to 8% or lower, even sometimes 9 or 10%, a lot of times you'll get a nasty gram from the LGC.
Brian, how does that 36,817,000 total compare with what it was the year before?
Jim?
From my memory, I'm thinking that last year it was around 35 total budget.
I think that's about right, 35. So we're probably a million more. But we're happy to get that information and bring it back to them.
And of that amount in fund balance, how much of that is COVID money?
None.
None of it, that's all tax revenue.
None of the other funds or enterprise fund money that is unspent goes into fund balance, is that correct?
Yes, it does go into fund balance, but if it's an enterprise, it goes into the enterprise fund balance, which is part of our general fund balance.
Okay, so
But you cannot use enterprise
it's
fund
restricted.
dollars for anything other than that enterprise fund.
Right.
The household solid waste fee. I don't remember us doing a consensus, we may have, and that's fine. This amount of $113 is up how much compared to the fee from last year?
$60 last year.
Yeah, it was $60 last year, so $53. Our solid waste director did comparisons with neighboring counties and other like counties. And at $113, our solid waste fee will still remain one of the lowest solid waste fees that we have. If you'll remember, several years ago, we had to implement a tax increase. And when the tax increase was put into effect, the board decided to drastically reduce the solid waste fee at that point in time to kind of offset the tax increase to some degree. And that's what's led to us using much of our solid waste fund balance, as well as the need to, now that most of our solid waste fund balance has been used, to increase the solid waste fee.
With the COVID, with the COVID situation calming down, has that impacted the volume of the trash coming in where we had to overrun earlier in this tax year?
It doesn't seem to have, which is why we budgeted heavy in this fiscal year for trash collections. It may be that what we're going to see is a lagging effect in that it'll calm down 2 or 3 months from now. It probably took us 2 or 3 months to ramp up to the current rate of collections we're seeing. So it may take us 3 or 4 months to lag down to what we would consider normal collections. But to date, we've not seen a decrease.
I know you're under the gun getting all the budget information together, but I don't want to let redoing the ordinance stopping the outside trash dumping from taking place in Caswell. I don't want that to fall on the back burner. I want to get that completed as quickly as we can and try to stop some of that.
Yeah, as the board knows, still working on the, trying to get the audit complete. We believe we're really, really close with completing the audit. So that's a positive. And the local budget ordinance and the budget as a whole have been very taxing on both administration and finance over the last couple of weeks. But as soon as we get these things taken care of, that will be one of the first things we look at.
And to your question, Commissioner Dickerson, last year, the general fund budget was $22,244,000. The general budget, not the other funds. So that is just about $1 million difference, a little under $1 million difference.
So I'm happy to answer any other questions the board may have.
Just got a comment. I know y'all don't have much time to do this since we met the other day, but I really appreciate the effort y'all done putting all this together.
Thank you.
I think looking at the budget, I looked at it, I went over it again between when we met and today and just double checking some things. You know, I think we've really done good this year. We, even though we had the COVID, it was a trying experience over the last year. We had to make several sacrifices, but I think all over the board has been good. Like the county holding the money down, and the taxpayers won't be getting a tax increase this year. I mean, the same other thing we're going up is the solid waste, and we got to do that to get it back up before they break even on be a little hit. So I think overall we've done a good job this year on the expenditures, the safekeeping of the money. I think this budget seems real appropriate. I mean, it's real good. So I think we'll be in good shape.
Well, I think we're lucky that through the board's guidance and the direction over the last year, you know, we've been able to accomplish a lot of good things. And we were able to return nearly $1.8 million in fund balance. And I think that's a positive in and of itself. So thank you. We appreciate those comments.
Just another question on the household solid waste fee. If we were without this amount, 113 per household, will we not balance that budget if we don't have this fee?
Well, if you reduce the revenues, you'll have to reduce the expenditures. And, you know, by all means, we can certainly do that if that's what the board wants to do.
Well, I don't know, I think the consensus of the board probably was to do it.
Yeah, I remember the consensus, but we was talking about it. We said to go, I think $1.05, and Steve said, no, let's go $1.10, make sure we break even.
So I said 115, but yeah.
Yeah, 115, so I mean, around 113, so that's about, we all voted on that day.
Yeah, well, I thought there was a consensus, of it. I didn't necessarily agree with it, but because it's a $53 shot.
Yeah.
And it's a fee, not a tax increase. We have to remember that. This is a fee. So I just wanted to make sure that's the reason we're at that point. It's because that's what we have to balance that budget.
I think the question you're asking might be at $113, does that balance the solid waste budget? We're not talking about the whole county budget.
Right.
Does that keep us from having to pull money out of the COVID funds and stuff like that to pay the bills?
Yes,
And that if we don't come up with this, then we'll have to appropriate more money to pay the bills out of some.
Have to come out of
Yes.
fund balance, have to come out of fund balance.
yes, so that's correct, and it raises an interesting point, or at least a question, in that if we don't raise the fee, could we still use the coronavirus funds to pay any overages? And I'm not sure the answer on that.
I don't think you can on that.
I
I'd have to come out of
really
fund
don't
balance.
think you could either,
No, that have to come out of fund balance.
because I think once you see those levels, a level of increases, and you go through your next budget cycle, I think we as a local government are expected to adequately fund, our enterprise fund. So I think that would be a questionable expense to take that out of solid, or to take it out of ARP money.
All right, if there's no
So does
further,
that answer your question, maybe?
there's no further questions. Okay, Commissioner
I
Dixon.
have a comment, or are you fixing to call for the vote?
Yeah, if there's no further.
Just got a comment. I first want to say that I'm very pleased that everyone was able to work together and we did not have to pass on a tax increase this year. I'm grateful to this board for working through that. But I want to add a note of caution. Times are good now, but I do not, I'm not going on a long rant here, but the increase of leased vehicles, the assistant county manager position being added, expenses like that and others in this budget that add a ongoing reoccurring expense. Times are good now. You got COVID money rolling in. It all seems like it's going to work. In years to come, when we have a downturn, I do not want to find us in a position where we keep adding so many expenses that we wind up having to raise taxes at a future time. The other thing I want to talk about at a later date that I'm not happy with in this, the school system. We need to go back and look at how they are funded in the future. Giving them a flat fee every year when we have had, 382 students have been removed from the schools in the last 5 years. But the census is that roughly the same number of students are in that county. So by the phone calls I've got in default, you've got homeschool, you've got charter school, you've got private schools, you've got people that are moving their children to other localities in public schools. This board needs to look and see what we can do to try to eliminate that. And if it's a carrot and stick approach and we have to put strings on the money that we give to the school system, I want to see it happen. I want to talk and have a constructive discussion and see what we can do as a board. Throwing money at the problem obviously is not working. I resent the fact that they ask us as a board to pay for teacher supplements Yet they have $11.3 million in federal funding coming this year and next year. And they got 2.3 million in their fund balance. And we look like the bad guys because we don't allocate supplements. They got more than enough money to pay that themselves.
They've been paying the teachers something last.
Well, they hadn't been giving them, but this year they're asking 300,000 out of us to give them.
Oh, yeah, they do
got
that
plenty-
they do that every year, Lance.
They've got plenty of money to do it, but we look like the villains where we're not giving the
Right.
schools that. They found the money to pay our Dr. Carter $147,000 a year, more than the governor makes. They took care of her. They can take care of the students. What I want to do is have a constructive discussion at a later date and how we look at the funding and see if we can't do it better, we get a better outcome for our children, our teachers, and employees of the school system. And I know it's a cop-out, and I don't even want to go down that road. I know we can't micromanage. The school board is in control of the schools, but gentlemen, we do provide over $3 million worth of funding to them every year. Strings and earmarks can be attached to get better results than what we're getting. And that's the end of my rant. Oh, one more thing. When I'm talking about leased vehicles, I'm not referring to what the sheriff's department got. Those guys were patrolling these roads and protecting our county, giving them a dozen patrol cars to make sure they've got what they need to protect Castle County. Money well spent. That's not. And the 5 that we did for the trucks, that was a no-brainer because it paid for itself. I'm talking about adding leased vehicles to departments and putting a lease cost on an ongoing expense when we should have been looking at a general pool and let these people share vehicles to get the maximum bang for our buck. Now I'm done, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Any other? All right, then I'll call for an action from the board.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we approve the budget for the year 21-22 as presented by the county manager.
There's a second.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further comment?
I just wanted to add my comment that I made earlier before this, that I appreciate the format in which this has been presented. It's much clearer than I've ever seen before in my vast number of years on the board. Plus the year I observed the board before I was on. So I appreciate the effort that went into that. I would hope that perhaps the new software helped make this easier to do. I don't even want to know. But that would certainly have been my expectation, but I appreciate your effort to make this more understandable of where the money comes from and where it goes to. So I thank you very much for that.
Thank y'all for working as hard as you did. I know it kind of got through on you all of a sudden. Y'all done a little extra, I know, so we appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, we have a motion and a second. No further comments. All those in favor with aye. Aye. All opposed.
Opposed.
One opposed. All right, the budget has passed. Now we move to the grant project ordinance for the Castle County Coronavirus State and Local Fiscal Recovery Funds. Malcolm, any questions concerning, you see the projected budget for this year out of Corona, and we have received the 2 point whatever
Yes.
funds for this year.
This Milton thing is not included in that, is it?
No, sir.
That request, and while, since you mentioned that, just let me, that request did come in late. We just got it, an email to our county manager, myself, about meeting with the mayor of Milton.
Yeah,
And so I talked with him, he made the phone call, and then they sent the other one, that the sheet that you have. And first of all, as I looked through it and I looked at the rescue plan, I could not come to a conclusion that they wanted the money to come out of the rescue plan. But looking at what they were doing and looking at what the requirements were of the rescue plan for water infrastructure, I couldn't determine that we could even do that. And so I've asked the county manager to clarify whether this could even be done out of those funds.
Yeah, because they're a town and of course, that self-operating system, and that, according to looking at this, they want us to replace that old system, but I know they've asked Yancey in the past for help too, you know.
And the reason I wanted our county manager just to bring this back up too is because we did help Yancey with some money this time. And I just want us to look at this and just, you know, if we can do it out of rescue funds, and we'll have to amend that budget if the board wants to do it. If the board doesn't, I mean, they are a town, they may need to look at their tax rate, they may need to look at some
Yeah,
other
they-
things
they've
as
got-
well.
They've got some financial.
But anyway, so that was the reason that I asked him to bring this up, so you would at least be aware they did make this request, and this is something we'll discuss later on. Any other questions about the budget?
We need a motion on this here.
We'll need a motion on this as well.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the grant project ordinance for the Castle County Coronavirus State and Local Fiscal Recovery Funds as presented.
Okay, we have a motion, need a second, we have a second. Any other further discussion or questions? All those in favor, aye? Aye. All opposed? It passes. So we have finished what we had set for today on our budgets. I did want to ask one thing of the board. I've talked to some of you individually and enough to have a consensus on it, but I do want the board, I would like for the board, I've asked them to consider the first meeting in July. That's usually a light agenda anyway, and because at every budget, we've had about 10 meetings in the last month. About 8 or 9 of those have been budget meetings. Our staff has worked very hard. They've had to be at every meeting that we've had, especially the budget meetings, but the other, our 2 regular meetings as well. And I would like for the board, for us just to cancel our first meeting in July. Like I said, it's usually a very light agenda anyway. And just to give them where they can kind of relax a little bit and well, and not have to worry about the day after a holiday coming back and doing a meeting at 9 o'clock in the morning, which means some of them are going to have to come in and work on that Monday to get that agenda prepared and all, most likely. So I've gotten a consensus of the board, but I did not get to talk with you individually, and so I'm not sure how you feel. And I didn't get to talk to Commissioner Dickerson. I did talk with Commissioner Hall, and he was fine with it, and you guys were fine with it. I did not get to talk to Commissioner Jeffries because he went out of town. But you guys have any major objections to that?
I do not.
Okay. So
I would like for the board to consider maybe. No, never mind.
and if something were to
No
happen,
objection.
Now, when do we have to meet again to approve the budget, or is it, are we doing it?
So we're gonna,
Well, so we don't have to meet again?
no. And, you know, if something happens something comes up, we can always have a special meeting if something does come up that we have to deal with. All right. No, I don't know that we need a motion for that. I think a consensus is good, and it appears that we have that
Yeah, I
consensus.
think that's a consensus.
If you want to make the motion, go ahead and we'll do it that way.
Do the rules of the Board of Commissioners specify that we will have 24 meetings?
no,
Yeah, we're only required to have 1 meeting a month by state statute. Yes. All right, so we will not have our first meeting, if we'll notice that,
yeah, we
because I think we need to notice that right away, probably.
sure, we can do that.
Anything else today? Well, thank you for your work, gentlemen. You know, budget's never an easy time for staff. It's never an easy time for us as commissioners. We have hard decisions to make, looking at a county that has limited revenues. And I'm hoping that things are going to improve on especially the the sales tax in with the increase maybe of business in Caswell County. I think things are looking better. And I hope that will show up in the amount of revenue that we take in, and possibly looking at down the road of maybe even being able, wild dream of mine is reduce taxes. Whether that will ever happen or not, I do not know, but if we continue to see some economic development, I think that's a strong possibility.
Well, I agree with you. We get to, and you know, we got this furniture plant coming in on that side of the county, and that should help on taxes. Dollar General store in Pelham is doing real good. I mean,
Great.
they stay busy over there. The one over here at Providence, where they're both on nice stores, so that all helps us over.
Yeah, I'd like to see something other than Dollar General, but
Yeah.
I think that's about 4 or 5 in the county now,
Well, yeah.
at least.
They built some over at Anderson, that was Dollar Tree, and
Yeah, I'll tell you what, we were happy to have the ones in Anderson that we got.
Okay, nothing further then, we need a vote. Oh,
David,
yes.
I want to say I echo the sentiments, and that it's been a long-held hope of mine that we could do a tax decrease to cut taxes in the county. I'm glad to hear you say that.
Need a motion to adjourn, gentlemen?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Have a motion, second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you.